Welcome to the 13th recording of Podcasters, today with Jim Rowe-Bot from Georgia, live. Jim, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Welcome.
Hello, my name's Jim Rowe. Everybody knows me as Jim Rowe-Bot, and actually I kind of brand myself as that now. As you said earlier when we were chatting pre-show, people remember the name, and it's stuck. And I work in the conversational AI space, and I've kind of carved myself out a little niche around creating content that is not too technical, not too simple, kind of sits in the middle. And my end goal is to drive more conversation within the conversational AI community, and it seems to be doing that, which means I get to learn. Selfishly, I do this so I learn more, and it's working.
So it's like me doing the podcast.
Yeah, because you get lots of opinions, and I've built hundreds of bots from the early days of doing very simple messenger bots up to doing big multinationals now. And you think you know everything, and you have preconceived ideas, and then somebody comes along and educates you that you're wrong.
Changes your paradigm.
Yeah, I like to be challenged. An obvious version of that is around small talk. I've always been of the opinion that it's a waste of time. It's a waste of clients' money. But lately,
small talk in the bot.
Yeah, exactly. People talk about it humanizing the experience and making people warm to the bot and that kind of stuff. And I've always been kind of very practical. But the more I think about it and the more people challenge me on that, the more I think that small talk done right can really enhance an experience. So that's a drastic change from where I was even 6 months ago.
But if we go back a little bit, if we talk about who you are, of course we talked before, you told me something really interesting. But originally, you're actually a military man.
I was, yeah. I joined the military straight from school, so that was 1988, and I was only 16. So they used to recruit.
You didn't tell them your age.
No, we used to have a thing called boy soldiers, effectively.
Okay.
So this is before women were allowed to do. I think they can do 99% of the roles now, which is fantastic. But prior to that, it was just called boy soldiers, and you joined at 16, and effectively you went to college.
Yeah,
so,
it's like prep school or something.
Yeah. You join, you do your initial 12 weeks of kind of knocking you into shape physically and mentally, and then you get chosen for a trade. And it could be automotive, it could be driver, it could be communications, whatever. And then you go to school. So you've got the military side. You're still getting up at stupid o'clock in the morning. You're still having to do loads of fitness. You still get punished by doing press-ups. And you're still having to march up and down. But then you'd be in school all day I think I was doing English, maths, German, automotive technology, communications. All of my friends went off to what in the UK used to be termed polytechnic colleges then. Yeah. And I went off to effectively a military college, and that stood me well for the future. And
what did you specialize in?
So initially in training, I did gunnery. So, okay. I would have been really useful in Ukraine now.
You're close.
Yes, I am very close. But then, when I arrived at my unit, I got retrained to be a signaller, communications. And I kind of stayed in that communication role then, became an instructor in communications. I felt very privileged. 1988 in the UK was tough. It was a recession. We seem to have them every so often now. Yeah, heavy recession, not a lot of work. Factories were closing. It was just crazy. So it gave me the time to develop as a person. And then 16 years later, I left and I moved into technology, IT, basically.
And you're basically still in there, but in a different way. Yeah. You combined IT and communication.
Yeah, so, it is exactly that. So I learned all these skills about being a self-starter, problem solving, presentation skills, all of that stuff in the military.
Discipline.
Then, oh yeah, a bit of discipline. And then I moved into an IT role, and there was only two of us in that whole organization, IT manager and me. So I learned all these skills off him, and I had to be a self-starter. I was learning a new system every couple of months. I was involved in project management and implementation. So then afterwards, I kind of progressed. Then I did my project management qualification. So there is an obvious route from boy soldier to where I am now, creating content and building bots.
And would you say that everything you learned along the way, all these traits you just mentioned, you're still using them today in all the projects that you're doing for your customers?
Yeah, 100%. I look back at the shy, skinny, useless even 16-year-old boy to now, working with some major brands effectively on my own. I pull in people when I need them for certain projects, but working on my own, I like the ability to pick and choose projects. I'm 50 now. When I was in my 30s.
Don't worry about it.
But, when I was like 32, when I went into that IT role, it was tough. I was learning on the go. I was, being introduced to things like SQL I'd never even seen before, and learning all these new skills. Yeah. But now, because my brain developed to be able to look at a system, analyze it, work it out, and then strategize around it, that's conversation. There is so many systems out there. I work with 3 main partners at the moment, but I must have used 30 to 40 different conversational AI platforms now. So that ability to just dive into a platform, use it, see where its strengths and weaknesses are, and communicate it effectively as well, which I think comes from the military, being able to communicate an effective message quickly to people that might not be technical or are super technical. I kind of sit in the middle, which is a nice position to be in.
That's an interesting way of looking at our trait.
Yeah.
I don't think many people look at it that way. If you look at use cases let's talk bots, but if you look at use cases in the market, or some of which maybe you have done, or you look at, what would be the most interesting use case based on your experience that is around now? So for a chatbot, or a chatbot combined with process bot, or with RPA behind it, what kind of solution sort of you look at is like, oh my God, this is the bomb. Wow.
So I think where bots can have a huge impact on an organization's ability to do great work is around onboarding. So
give me an example.
So imagine you're a university.
Okay.
And people, it's coming up to that time, your MBA courses are getting signed up, or people are, wanting to learn more about an MBA. But that ability, when they sign up, and then the chatbot onboards them through the whole process and keeps onboarding them all the way up until the day they step through the door, even if they step through the door these days. But, the Jugia platform I'm testing at the moment, it's able to pick up on elements of a conversation with potential students, for example, and work out what their personality traits are. And then from those personality
I saw that in one of your tests. That was brilliant.
So you got like the big 5 personality traits, and it's able to really, it can even feed that back to them, but then it can recommend what it feels is the best programs or courses for that person, which I think's phenomenal. Again, it could be used very well in recruiting. Being able to pick up on people's personalities, and being able to give the hiring manager or the recruiter basically, these are the people that in the table are the what we would call the high value candidates. They're the ones you should be interviewing today.
So then you would leave CVs and you would go to actually what it's all about. It's people.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing. I always ask people when I hire someone or for a company or in a team, it's like, okay, your CV, I read it, I understand it, very interesting. But what's not on your CV, what I should know about you, what actually explains who you are. And then people, you get people you have the actual conversation and you get them thinking about, and you get the most interesting talks and information and you learn about who they are more than from a CV, because anybody can, people will twist it to whatever they need.
Yeah, exactly. It's that whole hire for character, train for skill thing. With many, many roles now, as long as they're willing to learn and they're coachable, you can pretty much hire for the character for the role. And that's the personality. So This is where I see chatbots that can give you an accurate measure of someone's personality can be really useful. So imagine you're the professor running that particular MBA or that course, and you've got all the applicants, but with that, you've also got what the bot picked up on their personalities. So when you then interview them, you've got that with them, and they've got a copy as well, because the bot can give it to them. And
it should.
Yeah, it should, 100%. And then you can actually dive into, you can see, if they're slightly high on neuroticism, for instance, or low on openness, or whatever it might be. You can
have
ask
a discussion about
question.
it.
Yeah, and from that you'll be able to make a rough estimation of which of these students is potentially going to need more support, which of these, high on conscientiousness, for instance, they're going to need less support, but they're going to need me to be more organized. So, yeah, I think the ability to onboard within a education environment and then keep reaching back out with the bot. So whether that's, a 12-weekly email where they click in and they give feedback on how they're feeling, how the course is going, and again, picking up on the personality of where they are now. Are they overwhelmed, or are they being underworked, understressed? I think even if you went manual, so you're a company that hires 100,000 people a year in the automotive industry. Yeah, the ability to onboard those people with a bot is just massively underrated, I think, and it's a much better experience.
The response is a lot faster than the HR department.
Exactly, and it takes a lot of pressure off. If you can kind of link it in to their systems and their processes, it takes a lot of pressure off those HR departments.
If their software has an API and the bot software, the platform has an API, then it can talk.
Exactly that. Exactly.
So basically, you could upload diplomas and if needed and that kind of stuff. And although not every chatbot can handle documents, that's one of it's a known problem. But if you can, then you can basically do the whole onboarding. So again, you can also do KYC and customer due diligence processes the same way. I don't understand why banks in Holland are hiring, or actually 25% of the workforce is working in KYC and CDD, in anti-money laundering processes, which is crazy, because 90% probably or 80% you can automate and get better results, because it's not.
I think there's been obvious places, like for instance the insurance industry.
My trade.
Well, chatbots are phenomenal for that industry. Still undervalued, I think, but phenomenal.
You know why it's undervalued, Jim? You know why in financial services it's undervalued? Because there is this scare, and I think it's an unnecessary scare. For like in England, you have the financial services, the people who check it.
FSA.
FSA. In Holland, you have the AFM, and in every country has its own name. They're out there looking after the consumer, the interests of the consumer, which is good. But a lot of insurance company or banks are scared of those people because to get a fine or whatever. My belief is that if you do something with the real intent to help a customer doing the right thing, not for your wallet as a company, but for his or her wallet, then they can disagree with the way you approached it, but they can never give you a fine because you were looking after the interest, the intentions were good, and the outcome can still be good, but they might approach it differently. That's fine. But I think that the big scare of the financial services companies is it's unjustified, but they're scared for those companies. Unless they have other shit in their company which they don't want to expose, that could be a reason for being so careful. And I think that stops innovation big time.
Yeah, 100%. I hear that all the time. But, you know, I even hear it in like kind of local government. But if we go back to insurance, you know, you've had a big national event like, I don't know, like a storm. And people have got flooding, they've got damaged roofs, cars are in, you know, suddenly they get this massive influx. And
everybody has to work overtime to get the inbound to help people.
Yeah, if you just look at the human stress, not only on the customer's side, but also on the team side of having to deal with this, you know, 3, 4, 5, 800% increase in inquiries. Whereas if the bot was, a bot can deal with 100 inquiries in one go, you know, every second. It doesn't matter.
Even the other way around. If I were in control, I would say, okay, I know in what area of the Netherlands or the country the storm was or the flooding was.
Yes.
I know exactly based on the zip code if my customers are in that area, which customers. I have their, let's presume I have their mobile phone number. Why can't I send them a message through a bot in WhatsApp? We know you're in the area where the flooding was or the storm was. How are you? Do you need any help or assistance? Do you have any damage? So you turn the paradigm around, and people are wild. So, oh my! It's the first time my insurance company contacts me if I'm okay. That should be the first question, by the way. And if you need any assistance, whatever it is, and you can list, you know, with buttons what assistance you could give. Period. I think all of a sudden everybody would say, wow, this company is amazing. They're there for me.
It'd be really hard to do that with individuals, but a chatbot could do it.
Exactly.
But you could take it a step further. You know the storm's going. So the chatbot reaches out and gives them advice to prevent the damage.
But this is so funny. I was in June, I was in France. I rented a gîte from a friend of mine, and it was in the middle of France, and it's near a forest next to a river, and it was like in between mountains. So the phone reception was horrible. And in France, in that area, the internet goes through a cable above the ground. So there was a thunderstorm coming, and they can be quite harsh in that area. And of course, Orange brilliantly sent all their customers with an internet connection, sent them an SMS, a text message, stating that they should disconnect their box, their internet box from the electricity from socket. Because if lightning strikes one of the cables, then the box will start dysfunctioning or won't start again. But if you're in an area where your phone has no reception, or sometimes, and it's late at night, then you don't get that message until the next day. So that happened. And of course, lightning struck, and it didn't work anymore. So, but imagine that you do have internet and you would use WhatsApp. And you would get that message. That would be amazing. In the medical field, still don't understand why a doctor, if you have allergies or pollen allergy, why a central system doesn't send me, okay, in the area where you live, the pollen count will be XYZ, so up your medicine, because otherwise tomorrow you'll be in deep trouble, or you might end up in the hospital with an asthma attack or whatever. The technology seriously allows it.
Yeah, there is so many great use cases, but there has to be drive from someone at a high level within the organization. Unfortunately, at the moment, it's often driven by money, as in saving money and reducing headcount is one of those ways. But actually,
I object to that.
Yeah, same. It should be around service level. The world customers are not tied to one brand or one place to get delivered. The only place really is local government where you're stuck. You know, you've got to deal with that department. You know,
no options.
Yeah. So if in the UK, if it's your driving license and stuff, it's DVLA. There's nowhere else you can go. But if it's internet, I've got 100 different suppliers I can go to. I don't care about your brand. I just want it to work. And when it doesn't work, I want to be listened to, and I want it fixing as quickly as possible. That as a customer, I don't care about all the nice fluffy bits. Just give me the service I deserve and what I'm paying for.
You're paying for it, exactly.
Yes.
No, I totally agree, and that makes it so interesting because it should be about the customer and the value you deliver, and not about the money. If you do the first thing right, then the money follows.
Exactly.
If you deliver great value, and if you're not, you're getting what you deserve.
Yeah. So very true.
No money. I'm sorry for the employees, but that's what happens.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So we see the same use cases, and we see this. Everybody I talk to in every podcast and outside the podcast, everybody sees this huge wave. It's like we're surfing, and we see this huge wave, and we're trying to get it to land, but it sort of keeps rolling. And I'm just curious what we need to do to get this huge wave ashore, to use that term, because if you read the Gartner report, I imagine you've seen it as well.
Yeah.
We're looking at a huge market. I mean, huge. Why aren't we getting there as fast as we should? What's stopping us? I'm asking you as a visionary.
Yeah. So, having worked in corporate, I understand that the pressures are everywhere, and especially in bigger businesses where you can have the bigger impact, it's all around fear, but people are fearful of proposing and delivering something that if it doesn't work or if something goes wrong, it's likely their livelihood that they're going to lose. And
they're going to lose their job.
Exactly that, yes.
So there's no room for failure.
Basically, yeah. I think that's exactly what it is. And I think
how do you ever get innovation?
Yeah, it does. It really slows innovation. But people are fearful, especially once they get a high value role, they are fearful to have to go back down the ladder and start again. So they are very risk averse. What I see, especially within the chatbot world, is you need that visionary within that business. If you have not got that person within that business, and they're looking to you to be the visionary, like me, the project manager, that's the wrong approach. You need that well-driven, non-risk averse kind of stakeholder within the business,
the product owner.
Yeah, but sometimes more than a product owner, higher.
You need an ambassador on C-level.
Yeah, exactly. C-suite's probably where you need it. But what's happening is you've got leaders that are doing it, and they're doing it well, and then the competitor hears about it, so then they go and do it. Then another competitor hears about it, and they go and do it. It's not really proactive. Whereas in 5 years' time, it'll be a totally different ballgame. The technology's changing, large language models, NLP, all of the kind of linguistics. A lot of things are changing around the technology. Plus,
rapidly.
you've got conversational design is such a young job title.
Yeah.
So, there wasn't many of us 5 years ago, and now we've got a lot of really talented people in the market. And as more people join the market, they're being taught by people that have been in the market for 5 years. 20 years from now, there'll be people with 20 years experience, and that'll be phenomenal.
And that'll be you, but you'll be 70.
Yeah, I won't be working.
You're walking towards your retirement.
I am. I'm going to find my little cabin in the woods and look after some chickens.
And you'll have a website with a chatbot on it that if they want to ask questions to Jim Rowe-Bot, you put all your knowledge in there.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I have this vision, and I think it will be realized within the next decade or two, that we'll all have personalized concierge. which is effectively our own personalized digital assistant.
It's funny that you're saying that. I talked to a company, the owner of a company. They're actually currently developing this, and it's pretty soon I'll be able to test it. Because it's like a personal assistant, and it's your bot, and it does whatever you want. I think that's a crazy good idea.
Yeah, I think because in the future, the data that'll be collected from search engines around, definitely around voice search, all of this data, this assistant learns about who you are, your personality, going back to that personality thing again, what you like, what you don't know. It knows key information about you, but it's secure, so it knows your phone number, your passport number, your driving license number, the account number for your internet and all that. And you can effectively use it like you would use a PA now. So you would say to your assistant, John, can you, I'm going to Amsterdam on the 8th. Can you find me a good flight, please, with plenty of leg room? I'd prefer to fly out mid-afternoon, and then I need a return on the Saturday. And also, I need an Airbnb no more than €100 a night. And then it knows you, and it goes and does the work.
You see what the good thing about that is, at least I hope it would be like that, will be like that, is that your data isn't shared across a million platforms, but it's your bot, your data, and you decide based on the questions you ask what it does. And that's it. And it's not shared across platforms. It's not metadata. It's just for you. And I think people are willing to pay like a few euros a month for that easily because it makes life so much easier. You get an invoice, you say, oh, pay my invoice. That's you want to pay directly or at the due date. Oh, no, it's a due date. Oh, from which account? Okay, that account. And it connects to your internet banking. Boom, it's set.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So the issue we've got is data is the new oil, and companies thrive on that data. And we're going to need a societal change where your data is owned by you, and you give the permissions for a company to use it for that specific task, and then they give it back. And I think that's where we're going to get to within the next decade or two.
That's an interesting thought. In one of the previous podcasts, it was about if I'm willing to give you my data if you give me value, and there's something in that about ownership. If you get continuous services, then they need your data continuously.
Correct.
So there is something underneath, but I totally agree. It's a new model. So basically, by doing that, you kill business models like Facebook or Instagram, because these are data companies. If it's free, then you're the asset.
Yeah, exactly. So imagine someone like Airbnb, which is an obvious choice.
Yeah.
Is you say to your concierge, I need a 2-bedroom apartment somewhere close to the metro in Amsterdam for 2 days, 8th and 9th of December. Can you sort that for me, please? So it reaches out, gives enough data to do the search, checks with you. So at that stage, it's not giving too much information, no cookies, nothing.
Yeah.
It comes back. It says, well, I found these 3. Which one would you like me to book? Book that one, please. At that point, you've given specific permission of your concierge to share a limited bit of data with Airbnb.
Just what's necessary to do the booking.
Yeah. So Airbnb, the only value Airbnb have got is to deliver great service. That's the only way they can make money.
That's an interesting by owning.
No buying data, no selling data, no email marketing, because I'm not giving permission for that. You can have my email to do the transaction and update me, but you're not having it for marketing.
Why should we wait 20 years?
I want it now.
Well, as soon as you know what? I'll ask these people if you can be integrated in the test group.
Yes, please. That'd be lovely. But Airbnb could be really clever because the
not just Airbnb.
Yeah, well, I take them as an example because I use them a lot. But they come back and the concierge says Airbnb have got several offers coming out this quarter. Would it be okay for them to email you? Yeah. So you give them that gives them permission for 1 quarter, a limited time, to be able to email you. You start to put real standards on the use of data. It's consistent. It's expected. It's not abused. And you should be able to revoke that within seconds. So concierge, you speak to your concierge and you say, I no longer want to do work with Airbnb. And the concierge says, okay, all that data's pulled back off Airbnb.
That would be a delight.
Oh, can you imagine? If it just
I can imagine. I think these companies will refuse. They will do anything in their power to not let you do that.
But yeah, exactly, because it is the oil. They're making a lot of money off it. But if
the new companies will come.
I know it's a utopian future, but I look at what's happening in Web3 and the blockchain now. That kind of the businesses that do that take the lead, are going to stand out because we all worry about our data. So you're going to get. It's going to be the next step, I think, in the web. It's going to be these companies that are purely ethical, that they know their only goal is to provide an amazing service. And if they do that without any risk to your data, in fact, there's no risk to them at all because the controls will be put in place. They used it for that transaction, and then they no longer have access to it. Yeah, fascinating.
It's I don't think it's utopian, actually.
Let's hope not.
Well, let's see if we can be in the test group and then we come back here and we talk about it. That'd be really amazing.
But then it could cross across. It can go across everything about all government services. It's your driving license, it's your tax. Your banking and your tax. So you can never underpay or overpay on your tax because your concierge has access to both.
And it calculates and it tells you.
Yeah, exactly.
This opens up a lot of possibilities. Okay, I'll see what we can do for the testing group.
Yeah, that'd be lovely.
Did you see anything in the news recently coming by where you thought, I wish they used a chatbot or a process bot or something else in our realm to make life better for the customer? Because there's a lot of companies doing shitty things or stupid things to customers, either with data or with the process, or have you wait a long time on the phone for something that's really useless, but you need to do it anyway. You have no choice. And then besides government agencies, because they're not always as efficient as you would like them to be. And I can imagine in Georgia, it's different from Western Europe, maybe not. I don't know. Do you have anything that came by where you said, "Oh well, that's it"?
Well, interestingly, Georgia they did a big drive to remove like technical and physical barriers to doing business. Okay. So things like opening a bank here is really easy, registering a car is everything's really easy. You can do nearly every service on the internet, and it's only a country of 3.8 million people.
It's like Estonia. Like Estonia and Latvia, where they sort of digitized everything.
Yeah, it's really cleverly done. So you can do it for your apps. If you've not got internet at home, they've got like pay boxes. So I can do everything. I can do Georgia Post. I can do my internet. I can do my mobile phone. You can pay. If you go through a red light and the camera catches you, you get an SMS within 20 minutes.
No shit.
And
that's then instant gratification.
Oh, it really is. And then you go to the machine at the side of the road, which is the thousands of them. You put in the code from the SMS and pay your fine there and then.
No way. Yeah, and the next thing is you pay it on your phone.
Yeah, amazing. They've really put a lot of effort into making things easy here.
But here's the interesting thing is because then the government has, or the police or the municipality, I don't know which one, they have your mobile phone number.
Yes.
And that It's connected.
Yes. Yeah, because your car is registered to you and your number is registered to you, so makes life a lot easier for them. Yeah, there's just opening up a business here in Georgia, you could do it in an hour. Opening a bank account, 1 hour. Yeah, life here, they make things really, really easy for people. In a country where wages are low, life can be hard. I think the average earnings is only $400 or $500 a month. So to make life easier for people, it really helps.
How did they? But is it then that they were able to do that because they came from a situation where they had a low grade of automation, and they sort of skipped the in between part of what the Western countries had, so they didn't have a legacy? Is that the story?
I think that's exactly it. I think they came from that Soviet system of where it's about the state, not the individual. Everything.
Paperwork.
People dressed the same. People drove the same cars. They all had the same apartments. And then 90, when the wall drops and the Soviet Union effectively dissolved, the place just fell to bits. These countries, all of them. Georgia was full of gangsters, effectively, and gangs, and then the Prime Minister at the time, Saakashvili, came in and just looked to the West and saw how things were going, and he just revolutionised the place. I'll give you an example. He
was a visionary.
Not so much now, but he sacked 70% of the police.
Wow.
And then retrained
them all. Corrupt?
Yes. Yeah, so he wiped them out and started again. And I think what happened was they invited US police over to come and train them. They built all brand new police stations. Something that it's taken me a while to get used to here is police cars always have their lights flashing here. They're very visible. So wherever they drive, the lights are always going. So you see them from all over. It makes you feel safe. It's one of the safest countries in the world.
I didn't know.
Yeah, so Georgia's well ahead of the game, but chatbots are not really a thing here.
And why not?
I think it really could be. It's interesting, the websites are not such a thing here. Everybody operates definitely at the small business level, Facebook.
Seriously?
Yeah.
They do that business there?
Yeah. Every small business has a Facebook page. That's how you communicate with them. Yeah, it's a very different approach. But like you said, they kind of skipped that 20, 30 years of development and went from absolutely baseline zero of having no connected digital systems to having what I feel is probably some of the best in the world.
So they chose for efficiency.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is an interesting thought because it gives us sort of a look in the future, and what it could look like with us if we weren't lagging because of legacy systems.
Yeah, but it's interesting as well. If you look at developing countries now, it shows that with the right leadership and the right focus and support from the Western world, and potentially China now, if you think about how far they've come, a lot of these kind of developing countries can catch up really quick and deliver something special. I think predominantly around Africa, maybe, how those countries could move really, really quickly in terms of their technology and just make life better for everybody.
Well, they have, interestingly enough, the banking system in some African countries, because it's complicated, but a lot of people have a phone. So they developed a banking transfers via SMS.
Yes.
As a text message. And if you think about that, that was way ahead of the game. Where we will some countries in Europe still working with checks, paper checks. Can't believe it, but it actually happens.
Yeah.
They just skip that and they just have I'll send you money. I'll send you a text. Here's the money.
Yeah.
And it's added to your account. And I find that very interesting to see because we cause our own we are our own brakes in terms of innovation and speed of innovation and acceptance of innovation. Whereas there's the necessity and you don't have the legacy, you can choose the most optimal solution. And apparently we don't in the Western countries. And it's actually a pity.
Yeah, and it's almost like tying one hand behind our backs. But it's great for these countries that are developing. You know, everybody in Africa has a mobile phone. Makes total sense that would be where banking is done and where business is done. And people can literally tap phones against each other and pay for things. But then you look at China, you know, WeChat. I don't think a lot of the Western world quite understand how good WeChat is in China. Because you can do everything on it. Absolutely everything. I think the only person that kind of gets it is Elon Musk. Because, let's face it, that's why he's bought Twitter. He's going to duplicate what WeChat does. That's his plan. You know,
you're the first one I hear saying this, but it's interesting. But basically, because what you're saying is, we're part of this big wave we're on is conversational commerce, and I think that's a space that's being missed out by a lot of retailers. They need to start experimenting because why can't we have commerce in WhatsApp? I mean, apart from safety issues, I do understand that. But this is where the customer is. Why aren't you there? And why aren't you experimenting? And because if you deliver great value, the customer will allow you to do it.
Yeah. Well, let's have a look at, you know, if you just take the example of Amazon, which if you'd pitched Amazon 20 years ago, people would have laughed in your face. And now look, you know, it's this ability to just go on, buy something and have it the next day on your doorstep.
Or the same day.
Yeah, same day. Fantastic. And we'll wait till the drone stuff start. And robots are delivering, you know, 24/7.
They're already testing that.
Yeah. But if you look at retailers now, you can automate the whole sales process from the customer turning up all the way to getting the product and customer satisfaction and then following up and getting upsells and everything else. And that's where I think that's where I think chatbots are going to be amazing. And then you start to think about what's happening in Web3 and, you know, although the metaverse is getting a slamming at the moment, it's going that way inevitably.
In some form.
Yeah, in some form. And I think, you know, especially Meta have been trying to push it and make it a reality too quick. We're 10 years away, easily 10 years away. But if you think about the future of being in AR and VR worlds, chatbots and conversational AI is going to be more important than ever.
It's so funny you're saying that. When I was in financial services, I had a discussion with someone. So my vision is with augmented reality, in the near future, we will stand in front of a house. We will see it's for sale. My glasses will register it's for sale, and I'll get the question, are you interested? And I'll say yes. And then it calculates for me, okay, you can afford this or you can't afford it because it knows the asking price.
Yeah.
And basically, in the background, it arranges a financial arrangement with the mortgage supplier. Okay, I will get finance. So you get a green V, you know, you will be accepted if you ask for the financing. And you literally walk up the door, you ring the doorbell. We have a deal. And I'm offering you this for the house. Let's settle on a date. This is my vision for the simple mortgages, because if you have the data, it's sort of simple, so I think that people are like, it's not going to happen, but I'm pretty sure in a couple of years' time, with STP processes, with source data being used in financial processes, PSD2, you know, banking information, I think if you put all that together, you will end up you buy a house and you skip a lot of the entities in between, which cost money, make the process long and difficult. And then if we go a step further, and in America, they're already experimenting with this. Okay. Make an NFT from a house and you just buy the NFT and hence you have the house and it's your title and it's in the blockchain. So, and it's not a problem because it's transparent. So the local government can tap into that and just take out the information and see who's the new owner. And then we come back to the data thing you just said. You just give them access to your data and they know it's you.
Yeah, yeah. You think about.
I see this happening.
Yeah, technology. Sometimes I feel we need. The way technology has got a grasp of us at the moment is quite uncomfortable. We all feel a little bit icky about technology and about how it's taken away our time, especially around social media and apps like TikTok and that kind of stuff. We all know that we're a little bit addicted, and on a psychological level, that's what it's trying to do to us. But we're not far off, I don't think, a step change where that goes away and then technology is delivered in a way, and AR is probably that initially, is delivered in a way that does what it's supposed to do. It augments our lives rather than takes over it. So the house is an obvious one. But you think about that whole process of buying a house. So on the blockchain, you're then using the NFT stuff. So imagine you're a house builder and you build that house and you sell it at an amazing price. But within that smart contract, that NFT, every time it's sold, you get
a percentage.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, and the same could be for cars, fashion. I think
so then the original price goes down because at reselling you make money.
Exactly.
So that's interesting. Then construction becomes something where you have a continuous income from the same building you constructed.
Yes.
Instead of it's a one-off. So your original price can go down. You basically sell it at cost to the first one.
Yes.
And then you keep on making money. It's really interesting.
Yeah. So
it's a different vision on the world.
Yeah, there's so much like that, especially around the creative world. I think there's, at the moment, the big tech companies are the ones making the money off creativity. So, this platform, Riverside, is making money off our creativity, of your podcast. So they're getting a subscription.
I know the owners.
Well,
they're Dutch. They're Dutch.
Yeah. But imagine where it becomes that Riverside actually you become a part owner. When you buy, you get an NFT, you get a smart contract, you're a part owner. And, as it develops and as it sells and as you resell them on, you're making an income from that product beyond affiliate stuff, well beyond that. So, I think we're at the cusp of something very special. And like you were saying earlier, where your son does all your production, thinks very differently from us. They've grown up really as digital natives. They're going to adapt into that future a lot easier than we will. But they need to, because it's the future they're going to be building for their children.
Yeah, we had a discussion in the family, and my son said to my brother-in-law, who is a manager in a big corporation, in a management team, he says, and he was talking about how hard it was to get employees, technical stuff they needed. And he said, I know why, because they're busy automating your work. And that sort of was hard to grasp. I think eventually he got it, but it's if you think about it, it's a tough concept that for people our age to think, okay, there's the smart people we put on the world, and they're basically inventing stuff to make us how do you say that? Not necessary, irrelevant, sort of.
Yeah.
Well, sort of. And it's a really, if you think about it, it's scary and it's beautiful at the same time.
But it's not new. I know
it's not new. It happens every generation.
Yeah, ever since the invention of any type of technology. So things move on. Yes, the pace of change is fast. As I was a child through the 80s, 70s, 80s, I saw my dad lose his career. He used to work in the coal industry as a miner, and that whole industry just died in the Western world, really. Yeah. And I saw, engineering firms closing, the shipyards closing. Things change. But unfortunately for them, what they did was something that was not transferable. But what we've got, you and I, and definitely our children, is very transferable skills. So they're more soft skills and some technical skills. So, you know, I've recently started learning how to do live streaming. That's a new skill.
I've seen you.
Yeah. So you start learning all these new things. If I wanted to learn, 3D modeling, Blender, I could learn it in 30 days. My dad would never had that. He couldn't learn to go and do something. Everything was hand. Yes, he could go off and learn how to be a plumber, but to be a good plumber takes decades. And he was older.
Yeah, let me give you a look into the future. I'm also talking to a few companies that do, and we will have one on the podcast on podcasters, but who are using chatbot technology to do microlearning. They do it in company now, but there are also options to do it outside of a company for more general knowledge. And if I talk to my kids, basically what I'm seeing is that a lot of university studies or other studies are being irrelevant, to use the word. Now we have discussions saying, so why would I study history in school? Because basically the teacher is summing up whatever is in the book. How do I know what's in the book is true and or relevant? It's just a view on things. Do I need to form my own opinion? And if I need dates, I can Google it. Why would I learn them by heart? This is useless information. Why don't you teach me how to fill a tax form, how to buy insurance, what to look for? It's some basic stuff. And it's really interesting discussions that the youth actually has a view on education. And it's the older people who actually determine what they should learn. But our values, our system is old and not digital. And something goes wrong there. And they need to be educated in the way they need to live. And that's not the way they're being educated right now. That's why Corona gave such a big crisis in schooling, because almost none of the schools or in universities or school, other schools were ready to educate in a digital way.
No, I think education, basically the invention of the internet really has changed it. But I think education now, it should not be this thing you go to school to do. It should be a thing you advance on. Yeah, it is exactly a process. So if you take effective time whilst the child's at school, they might be there 8 hours a day. They're probably only learning for 2 to 3 hours. Why are we keeping them there? I'll tell you why we're keeping them there, is so we can work.
I know.
So why don't we create environments like we did, like the big posh Google offices and stuff, where it's just a massive learning environment? Yes, there's going to be the basics. You need to know a bit of English, a bit of maths. I think you need to know a bit of philosophy, a little bit of history.
Teach them how to think.
Yeah, exactly. So why don't we just move to an environment where they all go? We still need the childcare. We're not going to get away from that.
Nope.
And it's useful. So you send them to this almost like a Google campus, huge places where they go and they develop as people, but literally they can go to that philosophy seminar. They can go and watch that classic movie and talk about it. They can go to that art class. That's where I agree. They need to be taught to be thinkers.
Yeah, and doers. So there needs to be more discipline, and they need to be able to deal with disappointment. But to elaborate on that, I think that chatbot and chatbot technology, combined with what you said earlier, what the Juji software does, and if it's Juji or not, it doesn't matter. You basically could figure out what the state of mind of someone is, and if he's able to learn, and then feed him or her pieces of knowledge. Yes. And then basically test it in the chatbot environment. So I think for learning or tutoring or preparing for a test, some of the websites, you do a lot of stuff, but AI could play a huge role in that. At least that's my my view on that. And if you convert that to a chatbot or as a presentation, you're in the space where they already are.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you know what? Let's rehearse your test or practice your test in WhatsApp.
Yes.
How cool would that be? That all of a sudden all the students would be interested.
Of course they would. Yeah. And you've got to understand how this next generation or the generation beyond that, how they want to learn. They take small, sharp jabs of information. And, you know, we're all expected to find our passion, but the only way you find that passion is trying lots of different things. So there's enough people in our generation that went into one field and just stayed in it for forever. So they went in to be an engineer, and then they've reached 50, and this happens a lot, and they think, I never really wanted to be an engineer.
Yeah, that's of course that society does that to people, because there's okay, other people are doing that, so that must be normal.
Yes.
And people want to fit in and be normal, at least in our days. So we all followed a certain path which made sense at the time.
Yes.
And then you look back, it's like, okay, if I had a do-over, of course we don't, but if we had, you would make different choices. And that's what I find basically fucked up in the school system.
Yes.
In Holland, they're forcing kids of 15, 16 to make life choices, and it's impossible. It's just, and it's unfair because they're stuck in something they might not want to be stuck in.
Yeah. No, I think the whole Western world's approach to education, like pre-18 education, needs a massive shake-up.
And I think
there's not a one-size-fits-all.
No.
People are individuals. Some people are very good working with their hands. Some people like to work with their brains. Some like to flip-flop and do lots of different things.
They need to figure it out.
Yeah, and they need to figure it out early on. The issue we've got now with people is they're put down this very strict route, especially within the UK, of education.
Holland, same thing.
But then they leave school and there is too many options. You know, and it's overwhelming for them. They can do so many different things. So then they go, you know, and then they're scared they're choosing the wrong thing for university. It's really hard for young people, I think.
That's why a lot of them have burnouts.
Yeah, 100%.
Too much stress. Also, social media doesn't help.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, I'm not saying we're off topic. We're on topic, but it's interesting. We're creating a vision of the world, or our ideal world, and we have to admit it's a gray white man's world.
Yes,
but not actually. A lot of it is suited for the next generations. And what I said, the learning via chatbot or micro learning, I think that is the way to go for any generation, actually. And also to test knowledge, and you can make it fun.
Yes.
But you already see some companies, some initiatives going their way, heading in that direction. So I'm curious to get one of them on the show. And you had a chatbot ready to test, right?
Yeah. So I've tested.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you tested on it, but you have one specific for today. I'm curious which one you selected and why.
So I actually chose one that a lot of people probably know, which is Vodafone's UK version of their bot, which is Toby. Okay. They've got different chatbots around the world. So they've got one in New Zealand, which has got like a Maori name. I think they've got a Spanish one. Okay. Yeah, so Jose. They're all over. Yeah, and I think it's a really difficult challenge when you talk about something like communications services, because the questions are endless. So it's really hard to make it a human experience. You know, a call center human is very quick, very adaptable, and able to help customers. They're able to pick up on issues, show empathy. You know, I don't know about you, but I worked in a call center for a while once. And, you know, the people that can do that are absolute gold, because they are so talented. But a chatbot, to make a chatbot to be the equivalent is a real challenge. It's getting easier. They're getting better. But I think Vodafone's one actually is really cleverly done. But we're probably going to break it.
Of course.
Shall I share my screen?
Of course. Up to now, any chatbot we tested, we broke, or we got into a loop, or we got stuck.
Yeah, it's natural.
But we have more. It's a bit unfair because we have more knowledge, but we do stuff a consumer would do as well.
Yes,
and that's where the frustration of a lot of consumers comes from.
Of course,
and we're just trying to make that visible.
So, if I just take you through kind of my thoughts on Toby,
Jim, what is important? We have in the show. We have viewers and listeners, so the people on Spotify listen. So I read out, as you know, what we see and what we type, so that the listeners understand what's happening on the screen.
Yes. Okay.
Is that cool?
So yep.
Cool.
So we're on the Vodafone contact us page. So it's interesting. They choose not to put their digital assistant on their homepage, but within their contact us page. And what's really nice is within that, nice big fat banner at the top saying you can get help from Toby, the digital assistant. So it's marketed it. And it also tells you if that Toby effectively can't answer everything. And if it gets stuck, it'll connect you with the right human, which I think is brilliant.
This is the transparency and the managing expectations we talk about a lot, and what a lot of bots don't do, and that's why people are disappointed.
Exactly. If you can manage expectations right from the beginning, then people are less likely to get upset. And I really like below that, they just say, what can Toby do? Help 24/7, recover your account login details, go through your bills with you, put you in touch with a person. It's not too complicated. There's not a lot of information on that page, and the bot is not thrown in your face. If you want to chat to Toby, you have to click the black button that says chat to Toby, which I'll do now.
Okay.
And then, nice and quick, no messing about, none of the...
Here's one thing I immediately see. It says, ask me anything, I'm here to help. And on the page, it says exactly what it can do.
Yes.
That's because we had that in the first show. We had ABN AMRO. We were still in Dutch then. And Anna, the chatbot of ABN AMRO, the first thing it said, you can ask me anything. So you asked Anna, who won the First World War. And Anna freaked out. She totally lost it. Because that wasn't in her realm of data to use.
Yes, exactly. So we're just going to go in with a random question.
It's something that isn't that doesn't make sense to ask a phone company. Where can I rent a car or something?
Yeah, let's try that and see what happens.
I'm really curious now. So if are we going to break it in the first line?
No, I think Toby will do well. Let's see.
You never asked Toby this, right?
Yeah, let's see what happens.
I'm really curious. So one of the things that happens now here we go.
Yeah, so I'm happy with that response. Sorry, I didn't understand the question. Can you please try rephrasing? That's the perfect response. Now, if they've built this right and we asked a similar query, it should
go to a live agent.
Exactly.
Let's try.
Yeah.
Car rentals or something. Okay. You're the native English speaker, so that makes sense.
I'm going to type back. I'm trying to hire a car, and let's see what Toby does.
Good luck with that, you should say.
It's still here we go. So it's actually pulled through an FAQ that is irrelevant.
It's totally irrelevant. What the answer says, okay, if you still can the question was, I'm trying to hire a car.
Yes.
And then it answers, if you still cannot set up your booster, we actually broke it within the first line.
Yes.
Try resetting to factory defaults. To do so, press and hold the reset button on the back of the Super Wi-Fi booster with a small pointed object. Hold for it. Well, it's a whole technical story about a LED. And is there anything else I can help you with?
Yeah. So let's kind of put something that's kind of more on brand.
This is
I would like to know when I can upgrade my phone.
We have an answer. To
there
make
you
sure
go.
you give the right information, could you provide your phone number so I can identify what type of account you have with us?
Exactly. So
you can type. You can type a number. We'll blur it. So don't worry.
I haven't got a number, so it's going to.
So it's random.
It should fail on this, but we'll see.
Or if you, what would happen if you enter someone else's account, phone number or Vodafone?
Yes,
basically,
exactly.
And then it tells you what kind of account the other person has.
There you go. So it's taken a number, and I imagine in the background, it's now applied that as a piece of data eligible to me.
Okay.
And rather than say yes or no, it wants to know whether it's mobile, home broadband, or I'm having a problem with my annual upgrade promise. Vodafone customers might know what that is. But I'm going to go with mobile. Rather than click the button, I'm going to type.
I knew you were going to do that. See if it understands the command and the button.
Yeah, it's typical of a conversational designer when you're testing somebody else's bot.
Yeah, because what I don't understand why.
Yes, perfect. They realise that.
As you're a pay-as-you-go customer, the best way to upgrade is by going into. So it's actually a Vodafone number you put in there.
It is. It was my old Vodafone number.
But now you know it's a pay-as-you-go. It's a prepaid.
Yes.
So you use Store Finder to find more information. Is there anything else I can help you with? I think there's a little privacy issue here. So you can figure out what someone's contract is.
Yeah, but you know what? How useful is that? You know, you can't. You know, it'd be useful if you could have 10,000 records, maybe, but otherwise,
I don't know.
It's not so useful.
Well, you don't know if you can get. Basically, he's giving you access or to the database because there's somewhere an API going to the backend checking the number. Yes. So what if you could, if there's an API, I know you can add some code to it. So what would happen if in this chatbot you add code? You would be able to get more information.
Potentially, but you know what? This is Vodafone. I'm sure it's secure.
I know one thing from assumptions. They're the mother of all. I'll be decent, but you know that if you assume stuff, usually it's not.
Yeah. But
and we
from a customer point of view, then it's done a good job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You didn't.
They must have a reason. They must have a reason for saying, you know, to say you're a pay-as-you-go customer. And I'm just going to. Here it says you can use our store finder to find more of the information about your local store. So let's just try that. All right. It doesn't do it within the bot; just takes you out.
And the bot has disappeared. Yeah. And that's a thing that the bot should go with to the page you're going to. Yeah,
I prefer if the bot follows you.
Exactly.
They may not have. They may have decided strategically they didn't want to do that. And at the end, I do like the fact there's anything else I can help you with. So let's try another challenge. I would like to increase my broadband speed
in Georgia.
Yeah.
And it's typing, or it's giving us the idea it's typing.
Yes.
Holy moly! I'm thinking about getting Vodafone home broadband. Check the Vodafone broadband speed available in your area. I'm an existing customer. This is too much information.
Yeah, I don't like the way it's given. It's a lot of information there. One of the reasons we kind of use digital assistants is we want them to just do the work. I don't want to read all that. So at that point, I would have made a slightly different decision. I would have said, are you an existing customer, for instance?
Exactly, and then log in.
Yeah, potentially. Or ask them what their speed currently is, and then just basically present them with higher speeds if they're available, and then obviously move the conversation on.
Or just ask what's your zip code, and tell you what is available.
Yeah.
So you make it specific, and you can skip this whole diarrhea
this whole
of
block
information.
of text. Yeah.
You know what interests me? If you know, in the most podcasts, we come to the question, or ask my guest the question: should the people we learn how to speak computer, or should the computer better learn how to understand humans? Because the younger generation, if you see how they use WhatsApp, it's keywords. And the way we do it, we write full sentences, the whole stories, and blah, 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 blah. That's the same way we use chatbots. We use, long sentences. We try to give context, so we hope it understands us better. And what we see is there's chatbots that respond very well to the context because they're trained to do that. And there's other ones that work so much better if you just use keywords.
Yes.
And I'm really curious what Toby is. Is it a keyword-oriented chatbot or a sentence? Because it didn't say in the beginning how to communicate with the bot. It didn't give us an instruction. So I would love to try a keyword and see if you just type broadband or, I don't know, something, or Wi-Fi, see what it does.
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean,
I first.
Well, if you type wife, then it becomes really interesting. What did Vodafone suggest? Probably some sites. That would be really interesting.
So just simple. So it brings up Wi-Fi calling, which is, just that simple keyword of Wi-Fi is just too much. It's too open to interpretation. Really.
Wi-Fi speed?
Yeah, it could be Wi-Fi cost, Wi-Fi speed, Wi-Fi issues, Wi-Fi upgrade.
Let's try 2 words.
Wi-Fi cost.
Yeah. See what it's. Again, shoot. This is. I'm not even going to read this. This is so much information.
Yeah.
This is beyond long copy. And then it asks at the bottom, is there anything else I can help you with? I think a question should be, do you want to give feedback on the information we gave you?
It's challenging because this is the issue. And obviously, the people behind Toby see a lot more data. So they make this. I hope they're making data-driven decisions and split testing kind of responses. And, maybe this is the one that works for them currently. Although for me, I'm the kind of person, and you're of a similar age, if I see all that text, I'm out. I'm done. I've had enough. And I would type, speak to human.
Speak to humans. That's what happens now when we test bots, and then we enter into a higher handover to a live agent.
Yes.
And what happens is we just integrate the live agent in the recording, and it's really fun.
Yeah. So,
and the person doesn't even know it's interacting in the podcast.
Yeah. So I said I want to speak. So it's interesting. Said I want to speak to a human, and it said I'm here to help you 24/7. What do you need help with today? So what it's actually trying to do is actually have a second shot at helping rather than just immediately handing over. I quite like that. There's a few things I can help with. Now that's useful. Help with an upgrade, questions about billing, device support, or my account. I'll click help with an upgrade. And then it says options are, I want an upgrade, I want to add a new plan, when does my contract end?
That's interesting. If you put that one, then see if it recorded the data of your phone number.
Yes, let's see.
I presume it didn't. Probably what product?
So it wants to know why. It wants to find out my intent. Clever.
So it's just checking.
Yeah.
So we can say upgrading, leaving Vodafone, or just checking. I would.
So I imagine if I click leaving Vodafone, it's going to send me to a human because chatbot. A human's going to kind of do a
Try to
better
stop
job
you.
as retaining me as a customer. But the upgrade or the just checking, the bot can take that conversation a little bit further. So
I'm curious.
let's try it. If I say leaving Vodafone, let's see if it passes me over to a human.
Finally. And what I also see is that once you've made a choice, you can't come back to your choice. It eliminates if you go up in the chat, you cannot change the choice and then change the conversation. So if you've made a mistake, you're busted.
Yeah. But it's interesting. I'm thinking of I've selected that my intent is I'm thinking of leaving, and it's come back and said it can't find my end date, and then it's just given me some instructions. For me, the way I would have designed this from the outside is if someone's intending on leaving, then give them. If you can't give them the data, then just say, "I'm going to. Do you mind if I hand you over to one of my human colleagues, and they can help?" Yeah, because I might just be a bit peed off, and talking to a human kind of
settles
brings me
it
back on board. Yeah.
And if you overwhelm him with so much information,
yes, you're more likely to leave.
Who needs this?
Yeah, exactly.
So and if it was one time we would get so much information, then you'd say, okay, it's a flaw or it's a test or whatever. But this is structural. If you ask it do something, you get overwhelmed with information, like someone couldn't choose.
Yeah, it's an awful lot of information.
I can't imagine that. We'll tag him in the post.
Yes.
And ask for a response, because I can't imagine who does this.
I'm looking at that now, and in terms of a word count, that's got to be 250 words.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's too much.
Imagine reading this on your phone screen.
Oh yeah, nightmare. And be quite honest, you've come to when you go to a chatbot, you're looking for speed and convenience. Reading all of that is
and
not
value.
Yes, yeah. So for me, I would have opted out by now. I would have ended the conversation.
And I think a lot of people with you.
Yeah. So that was worthwhile.
Life simple.
Yeah, that was worthwhile.
We learned something.
We did. I'm going to stop sharing now, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, I didn't expect that to happen actually from Vodafone.
Yes, but it's interesting. I think it'd be quite an interesting exercise to go to the different countries, English-speaking countries, perhaps. Is Vodafone big in the Netherlands or not?
Yeah, they're big.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to see what their version of that's like. If they are they run as independent builds, or are they 70% the same, 30% different to take into account cultural differences? I know the one in New Zealand was given a lot of press about how they kind of really focused in on their localized customers. So interesting. Yeah,
very interesting. If you want to give our listeners and viewers some general advice, some short advices that they can take along and use in their day-to-day business to be better conversation designers. Of course, you wrote this book. I didn't order it yet. I'm sorry. I will. But it's about how to be a good conversation designer. Again, we're not selling anything. It's not a sales pitch, but you've given it a lot of thought. You've got quite a bit of mileage on your conversation design counter. So what would you like to share with the community? So if there's one thing you take away from this conversation, or from my knowledge, it should be, and then the word is yours.
The
floor is yours.
So, yeah, it's interesting you brought up that how to be a great conversational designer, because there is no conversational design tips, tricks, or tactics within that book. It actually focuses on more of the soft skills around being a conversational designer. You can go now to books, videos, or proper training establishments like the CDI, Conversational Design Institute, who I'm a massive fan of. You can go and do Google's conversational design certification. There's lots of freebies out there. Cognigy do a really nice one. And you can learn to be a conversational designer and have a qualification. They don't
that
teach
that doesn't make you a great conversation designer.
It really doesn't. So, the first thing I say in the book is build more bots. And I'm not just about, building the bot. You've been employed, you're working on Toby. Build on a different platform. Learn some new technology. Pick a niche. To be a good conversational designer, you've got to have worked in more than one niche. Pick a local business, pick a cinema, pick a big brand. And, what I used to do is I used to do what we've just done is I used to go and analyze a chatbot, shred it, and then build a version of it myself, how I would do it. Yeah, that was the plan. But what it also did is it made me realize why they made some of the decisions they did. Although I didn't like them, by trying to build better, I realized why they did what they did.
So you got the rationale behind it.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think by doing that, you can definitely become a better conversational designer. Another element I talk about there is networking. There's a burgeoning community out there, and people just sit in their little, sit at their desk, predominantly over the last couple of years at home, designing the bots or working on a particular contract for a couple of years, and feel isolated and alone. And I've spoke to lots of people in lots of organizations where they are the only conversational designer and they've got all this responsibility and no support. But there's a great network.
One is none.
Yes.
In large corporations, that's instead of an asset, you're a liability.
You really are, because there's no one to stop you making silly mistakes. There's no one offering you support, and when someone's under stress, they can make poor decisions. But there's a great. What I love about this community is you can literally reach out to anybody in this community, and if you don't understand something, they'll explain it, and they'll take their time to explain it, and they'll assist. And if they don't know the answer, they'll point in the direction of somebody who does.
That's why this podcast is so much fun, because people are. It's like the medical field. As people are really enjoying what they're doing, they actually have the feeling they're making a huge difference and impact. And some people don't like to be criticized, but not everybody enjoys our stripping off the bots. But a lot of people do, and they're open to the criticism, and they're honest about what the rationale is behind the decisions they took. Whether it be good or bad. But if you understand the rationale, that's why the context in these conversations is so important. Because sometimes the result is not logical, but the reasoning behind it was at the time very logical, but just turned out wrong, or turned out wrong to be wrong now. That makes it so interesting.
And I think that the other thing is this community is so open that if somebody challenges me on one of my bots, I will happily have a conversation and discuss it through. And if they come up with a great idea, I'm like, yes, that's a great idea. I'm going to do that. So,
thank you. It's free.
Conversational designer, I think it's a skill to be proud of, but it goes beyond creating great dialogue and user experiences. There's a lot more going on around improving your skills, building more, building your network.
But also understanding business cases that it's all about value. And what I see in organizations, once you have a successful bot, let's say the bot is the hammer, then everything becomes a nail.
Yes.
And that's also a problem, and that's a danger to successful bots, because at C-level or management level, they all of a sudden think, this solves all our problems. It doesn't.
No, it certainly doesn't. Not. People for me are still the most valuable asset.
Totally agree.
We are a long, long way, decades away from not needing humans in customer service. A good customer service agent should be paid handsomely for what they do, because they are truly, truly amazing people. I see
but they're
bots.
not.
Yeah, they're not paid enough. I remember working in a massive call center. This was years ago. A company called PC Service Call. So this would have been 2002, and so it was PC World.
That's the magazine, no?
Yeah, well, this was a company. So I think there was like 3 companies under it, and this call center handled all of the support. And it was people buying computers, laptops, whatever. And I was on what they called the pound a minute line. So there was very strict rules. Call could not be more than £20, so you had 20 minutes to solve their problem. And I was rubbish at it. I truly was rubbish.
Because you really wanted to help the customer.
Yeah, I just wasn't good at that environment, sitting in a booth, call after call after call. But then I would look over the way and there'd be like the team leader over there, stood up with big beaming smile, just giving the customer such an amazing experience. Chatbots will never be that. Humans are humans for a reason because of the humanity of them. What bots can do is help along the experience. Deal with quick, simple, transactional
Repetitive.
issues. Help the customers. And then when you need those real customer service superstars, they're available.
Well, I think I totally agree with you. And I think that using chatbots and or AI allows those superstars to shine eventually.
Yeah.
And because right now the superstars are doing shitty work, a lot of the shitty work, which chatbots can do better, because they don't get bored. They work 24/7, always on, and consistent in their answers.
Correct.
So I think let superstars be superstars, and also use them as your AI trainers, because that's the people that make the difference. That's what the discussion with Stijn Elshout was about from Huxham. It gives the customer service agents of today are your AI trainers of tomorrow. So make sure they're well paid. You keep them because they have all the knowledge about customers, the product, the services. They're gold.
And beyond that, customers change, products change, services change. They are the people that make the bot good. That they are the ones that truly make their whole customer experience you speak to anybody in a call center customer service environment and they're time poor, and they would like to have 1 day a week where they can just step out of the work, concentrate on making the customer experience better. You take all of those simple queries away, you've given them that time.
Yeah, and eventually then you get into how do you say that? A flying wheel, I don't know, where you speed up things without actually making huge investments, and all of a sudden you free up time, and the freed up time allows you to do something else, and that sort of you go faster and faster.
Yeah, and these people, these superstars become your strategists. They understand the value of the chatbot and where it can really help. They move beyond being that customer service superstar to becoming that customer service strategist. They're really useful in helping the customer have the best experience ever.
I presume that those are the people you talk to when you develop a bot for a company.
That's who you want to speak to. Do you always get access to them? No, because they're so bloody busy. That's
one thing. And sometimes managers think they know better.
Yes, unfortunately, yeah. And they haven't been on the phone for like 5 years. Every project, and I've done a lot of projects now, every project is different. Every project has its challenges. But that's why I love doing what I do, is I get to work across so many different niches with so many different teams. And you can see I'm quite energetic. I'm excited.
Leave out the quite.
And when you're managing a project, you need to move everybody along with you, because I'm focused on the project, but they're actually focused on doing the day job. And the project is secondary. So you've got to really you've got to feed them energy. feed them energy to help make the project move forward, which is
and help them understand that you're not eliminating their job.
Yeah,
you're
that is
them actually more important.
Yeah, actually make them far more important, because the bot is going to need training forever, and a bot is an ongoing process. It's never finished training. It's never finished developing. Customers change, services change, products change, people change. We're so lucky to be in this burgeoning niche.
I think with this visionary and sensitive note of how we experience things, I would like to conclude our bot. Thank you very much, Jim. If someone is looking for you or wants to do business with you, how can they find you?
LinkedIn. Yeah, that
LinkedIn, Jim-Rowe-Bot.
Yeah, if you just type Jim Rowe-Bot in Google, I'm not hard to find.
Okay.
There's nobody else with that name.
Oh, well, you never know. But thank you very much.
Yeah. Just by the way, there is a Jim Rowe. He's a famous director in the US, movie director. So I'm normally well below him. But Jim Rowe-Bot, you'll find me every time. Well,
there you go. So they can find you on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Or Google you.
Yes.
The podcasters can be found on YouTube, where you have, where you can see what we do, and on Spotify under Podcasters.